Gun myths. Did you know that most people in our society have no idea how a gun actually works? Thanks largely to the embellishments and over-exaggerations of modern cinema, games, and other media, much of our knowledge now stems from an erroneous set of gun myths, which will be busted in this video. Silencers aren't silent. To many gamers, simply adding a suppressor to a gun can transform their character into an invisible menace, able to unleash volleys of fire with the quietness of a mouse. But although a staple of stealth builds in video games, in real life this component doesn't actually suppress much noise. A suppressor only quietens the sound by slowing down the release of propellant gases. It doesn't affect the main source of noise, which is the sonic crack that emanates from the bullet when it breaks the sound barrier. Nor does it reduce the clamor of the gun mechanism, which can be as loud as 115 decibels in some guns. In addition to this, it doesn't dampen the sound produced when the bullet flies or hits the target. Overall, modern-day suppressors can only cut out about 30 decibels on average, which is about the same a pair of standard ear protection headphones can provide. Most guns release over 140 decibels when fired, meaning that on the quietest of weapons, a silencer can typically reduce this down to 110 decibels. On the other hand, since hearing loss can occur from as low as 85 decibels, a suppressed gun can still cause permanent damage. Attention soldiers, this video is proudly presented by War Thunder. Prepare yourselves for an expedition into the most comprehensive and intensive vehicular combat experience known to date. War Thunder. Select from a formidable arsenal of over 2,000 vehicles, spanning a century of warfare on land, sea, and in the skies. Each vehicle is meticulously crafted down to the smallest detail, embodying historical accuracy that demands respect and fear for your enemies as you decimate them on the battlefield. Grip tightly onto your resolve, for we engage in warfare of the highest stakes. You must be determined, ready to sacrifice everything to become victorious. Or at least it's more fun to think of it that way. Each battle offers varying levels of immersion tailored to suit the resolve of every soldier, whether seasoned tactician or steadfast infantryman. Planes, tanks, and ships converge in warfare, ensuring that no two engagements transpire alike. This game encompasses the essence of warfare, a realism that commands attention and textures so vivid they immerse you in the very heart of conflict. Should you seek to dive deeper into the annals of history, every component of your vehicle awaits scrutiny, bearing the weight of past glories and sacrifices. All these vehicles are 100% historically accurate down to the last detail. So, seize your weapons with unwavering determination and rally alongside your comrades on this battlefield. For we embark on a journey of conquering your foes. To partake in the glory of War Thunder, free your spirit on PC, PlayStation, or Xbox. Register now using the link below and receive a bonus package, your testament to the commitment to the cause. Featuring 3 premium vehicles as well as 50% experience and income booster, 2 advanced vehicles for rent, 100,000 silver lions, and 7 days of premium account time. It is a testament to your resolve amidst the turmoil of war, a reward not to be taken lightly. Flamethrowers don't blow up if shot with a bullet. Since its introduction in the First World War by the Germans, the flamethrower has become one of the most terrifying weapons of the modern arsenal, guaranteeing excruciating pain and agonizing death to anyone unfortunate enough to find themselves on the receiving end. According to common myth, however, this seemingly invincible armament has a notable weak spot. Many believe that a flamethrower can be killed in a fiery explosion if bullets are aimed at the gas tank, but as it turns out, this is just a misconception. Starting with the basics, even if a bullet hits the gas tank, it will very rarely penetrate the thick metal wall of the gas cylinder and will probably just bounce off. But even if the bullet was able to rupture it, it is still highly unlikely this would cause an explosion, since the most likely outcome would just be a fuel leak. This is because although the bullet would be hot when it entered the gas chamber, its temperature would not be high enough to ignite the fuel inside. Lastly, even if by some miracle the bullet did cause a spark, there's only a remote possibility that it would produce the necessary 530 Fahrenheit heat required for the fuel to spontaneously ignite. Hangman ropes don't always cut when shot. In a lot of westerns, it's a safe bet that at some point in the movie the protagonist will fire a perfectly aimed pistol or rifle shot from a distance at the hangman's rope as the victim falls from the gallows, cutting it completely to allow the condemned to quickly dash away in an instant. In reality, however, to actually pull this feat off is near impossible, as popular sharpshooter Jerry Miculek performed in 2015. To put the theory to the test, Miculek set up a Western-style gibbet, attaching a sisal 3/4-inch rope, commonly used in the Wild West, to a mannequin weighed down with an additional 200 pounds to simulate the moment the victim's feet leave the ground. A Colt single-action .45 pistol and a larger 1874 Shiloh Sharps .45-70 rifle, both standard cowboy weapons, were then fired at the rope from a couple of meters. Shooting the pistol, the bullet barely scratched the surface, displacing only a few rope fibers. Since the rope remained largely unscathed even from such a short range, Miculek illustrated how the pistol was not powerful enough to slice it in half from a long distance, like most Western heroes are able to do. With the rifle, however, the results were a lot more promising, and the rope was cleanly shot in two. So, with superhuman accuracy, it is actually possible for a gunslinger to perform this deed with an adequately powered rifle, but it's impossible with a pistol. Bullets don't cause people to fly backwards. A lot of the time, whether on the silver screen or in a video game, when an enemy is shot, it's become standard practice for them to fly back dramatically, sometimes across an entire room upon their demise. This is, of course, false, for the very way a bullet is designed to operate makes such an outcome impossible. A bullet is a streamlined object, carefully crafted to reduce as much aerodynamic drag as possible. With the help of this feature, the bullet is able to go faster, helping it concentrate an enormous amount of energy onto a small area with high kinetic energy, and so endowing it with penetrative force. As such, bullets are easily able to pierce flesh, but because of its low mass, it has very little momentum. This means that when it impacts a human tens of thousands of times heavier, it can't generate enough force to knock them off their feet. So, while it's certainly likely that a direct hit from a heavy weapon, such as a missile launcher, would cause the victim to be blown backwards, this cannot be said for smaller arms, which naturally pack less of a punch. Dropping a gun very rarely makes it go off. Nowadays, in pretty much any action flick, dropping a gun to the floor so it discharges and kills the enemy has become one of the most overused tropes of the Hollywood action star. Curiously, this has some truth to it, for during the era of the Old West it was indeed possible for a cowboy's gun to go off in this manner, providing that the hammer, a device that activates the firing pin or cartridge primer, was struck when it hit the ground. On the other hand, technological advances mean that today's weapons are not so trigger sensitive. Firstly, the stiff trigger pull of all modern armaments requires several pounds of pressure to set it off, meaning it's unlikely to activate if it slips from the gunner's hands. Furthermore, the internal mechanisms such as the firing pin and hammer block guarantee that the movements of the firing pin and hammer are obstructed until the trigger has been fully pulled back, while the trigger disconnect prevents the gun from shooting until the trigger is squeezed again. Other innovations include the bolt interlock, mainly found in shotguns and rifles, which prevents the trigger from being pulled when the breech, the area where the cartridges are loaded into the barrel, is not fully closed. Finally, integrated trigger safety installed in many guns today only let off rounds when both the top and bottom half are pressed. A combination of all these safety features ensures that most of the time, a gun will not accidentally discharge if dropped. Blank rounds can be deadly. Whenever someone announces that they're shooting blanks, it's usually because they want to let everyone know that the projectiles they're firing are harmless. Yet this phrase is actually incredibly misleading because it fails to address the blank round's inherent danger. A blank round is essentially the same as a bullet, possessing the same sleek outer casing, fuel, and primer, apart from one key difference. A bullet is lethal because it's made from heavy, dense material that enables it to pierce flesh, while a blank is considerably less dangerous because the metal is replaced with paper or cotton. As a result, if shot from even a couple of meters away, the blank round will quickly lose speed and merely graze the target without causing any major damage. However, if fired at point-blank range, it can have deadly consequences. Since they're utilized for dramatic effect, a blank will often be loaded with far more gunpowder than normal, and the edges of the round casing will be slightly bent to allow more gas pressure to be applied to it. If fired right next to the body or head, a large amount of gas, which usually dissipates with distance, will have no room to expand, meaning that the victim will be hit with a potentially lethal wave of bone-shattering force. It shows that gun myths can also lead to tragic outcomes, and should be deconstructed at every available opportunity.